Hello again. This is David Nelson, President and CEO of DementiaCoaching.net and founder of the Compassionate Warrior Tribe. We're here again today with our 5th episode of the Celebrate Aging Roadshow. I call it my car show. And again, the goal here is to talk about topics of interest to our baby boomer generation. We're all baby boomers here. And today's topic is doing the dementia dance. And this is one of my favorite things because we're going to be talking about end-of-life issues and hospice care with my friend Alan Wood. And Alan has been a caregiver for 13 years. I'll let him introduce himself in a minute here by his questions. But the point today is that with regards to choosing your profession and how that came about, and then how does that influence you as you move forward in your life, that's what I'd like you to think about today, our viewers. And Alan's specialty, what he's moving into with the caregiving, is in hospice care and death and dying issues, which is one of my favorites because I love talking to folks at end of life. And so we're going to be celebrating that. And how could you celebrate when someone's dying? That's what we're going to get into today. But the bottom line for me is to talk about our purpose today of what it is that we're actually doing and where we're going with our car show and what we're doing with the goal of the program today. So the purpose of the show overall is to inspire our baby boomer generation to begin to take 100% responsibility for our health and our well-being, and to motivate you, our viewer, to begin to live your dream lifestyle today with love and laughter. How do you do that? Talk about death issues. That leads into the goal of today's program. And the goal today is to celebrate our lives and to remember that death is merely another transition in life, and in the end, no one gets out of life alive. Right, Alan?
That's right.
Exactly. So I'm going to read a little intro that Alan wrote about himself here. And it says, I enjoy helping people through difficult times to help them enjoy their retirement years. I enjoy helping my clients enjoy life despite their age or health challenges, bringing comfort to family members and happiness to my clients. Alan has a little personal story about his father that he's going to bring out, but it goes on about his dad, that helping his dad through Alzheimer's and then ultimately dying, he discovered what was missing in his own life. And that, in the end, is what death and dying issues can bring to people if they will open their mind to it. So he says, my father was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. I helped him and my mom to care for him and decided that this was my calling and what I wanted to do. So Alan, please expand on that before I start with our questions. How did you realize that was your calling?
Well, I remember back, first of all, after graduating from high school, what was I going to do with my life? What kind of career would I go into? And I had no clue. I had no car to get to town. We lived way out in the boonies.
What part of Arkansas?
Well, I grew up in Combs, Arkansas.
Combs.
Back on a dirt road. And I went to school in St. Paul. And so my only way out was the Army. My dad had served in World War II. And so I joined the Army. It was pretty tough. Before it was over, I decided, this isn't it. So anyway, I started working in a factory in St. Louis, and 10 years later, I just felt this calling to come back home. And I wanted to live close to my parents. And my dad was quite elderly. He was born in 1902.
Wow.
And so I ended up buying a house. It was only a block away from my mom and dad. And my mom called me one day and said, Alan, your dad's falling out of bed and I can't get him up. So I came down there to help. I got him back into bed. And it was odd because he kept trying to turn in the circle. Like he just thought that's what he needed to do. And I said, well, Mom, this won't work. He's just going to fall back out of bed and get really seriously hurt. It wasn't until then that Mom told me he had Alzheimer's. So she had known this for some time. And I had no clue. I just knew he was forgetful and doing dumb things like putting oil in a radiator and things like that.
Sure.
So,
doesn't everybody?
So I started taking care of my dad, and I helped my mom get him out of the bathroom. And as soon as we got into the hallway, going into the living room, it was like a switch turned off in his brain. It's just dead weight. Good thing I was holding on to him. And from there on, he was bedridden.
Wow.
I had no training on how to care for someone, but Mom and I wanted to take care of him at home. She did take him to VA one time, and she didn't like how he was just laying there and they bring him food and no one to help him eat, and he was cold. And so she brought him home in the middle of the night without even telling me, to try to get some help from me or anyone. She was a little short lady, and Dad was tall as I am, about 6 foot. And she pulled him out of the van onto herself and dragged him across the yard and into the house and laid him on the floor, made him a bed. So we got him a hospital bed and got him set up in that. And it's a shame I didn't have any training, because now looking back, we did everything wrong. You should have seen me trying to lift a person with dead weight out of bed into a chair so we can make the bed and put him back in the bed. Did not know that you can make an occupied bed, meaning someone that's in bed, you can turn them over and change their sheets and do everything in bed. So after my dad, he was getting close to passing away, and he was breathing really hard with his beautiful blue eyes looking out at the birds. He loved the birds, and we had him set up in the living room. And he was breathing really hard, and I said, Dad, there's no need for you to suffer. Why don't you go on and be with Uncle Albus? My uncle, his brother, had died of Parkinson just about 5 months before Dad did.
Oh, wow.
And Dad kept going back in time and visiting him, like reliving those old days, like a lot of people with Alzheimer's will do. And so I had to go to the not Super Center, but Walmart in Huntsville, and he passed away while I was there.
Wow.
So ever since then, I've really, for the first time, had a tug of what I wanted to do in life. Now, I already had a good paying job working in Springdale in a factory, but it wasn't the same. I ran a computerized lathe and mill making these beautiful Maco wrenches, and I'm looking at this wrench, and I thought, how much good am I doing with this when I could be helping people like my dad was? And it just kept tugging at me, and I thought, well, how can I do it? I need the schooling. So we were on a point system at work. If you had too many points added up from missing too much work, you would get fired. But I had an excellent record, so I started going to school and just getting a little point here and there for being a little bit late, coming back from school, and I went into CNA schooling. I went from there into a nursing home that sponsored me, because it cost more money than I'd had right then. And I witnessed a lot of abuse. I reported abuse. And I probably would have gotten fired because I reported it.
Right.
But I didn't care, because it was the right thing to do.
Right.
And it really angered me that this was going on, and it seemed to be the common thing, common way. I ended up going to 2 other nursing homes, which was not so bad. They were much better, but still the staffing is way too low, and people cannot get personal loving care like they could in their own home. And one of our patients on one of the wings had a caregiver, a personal caregiver that came in just to be a companion. And I found out that you can take care of people in their own homes, one-on-one.
Right.
And so that's what I wanted. And so I made the right calls, got with the right people, good quality people that had a big heart. And then they told me about the Schmeeding Center. I didn't know about the meeting center. So I started taking classes there and got even much better schooling than what I had had from my previous school. But most of my education has come from on the job with the person. And I realized what makes a caregiver is your love and desire in your heart to be there for them and
Right.
what they need and where they need.
Right.
And so it was hard to find other caregivers to work with as a team because it just didn't match up. A lot of them were there for a job.
Right.
And I'm thinking, if you want this for a job, this is the wrong job for you. You've got to have the heart first.
Yes.
That's where it comes from.
Yep.
And so many of my patients, it brings me right back. I think I see my dad laying there, and I wish I could have been more for him. But yet, I didn't fail my dad, because one time he was able to speak to me, and he looked at me and he said, "I'm so glad you're here." And I have met that same attitude with everyone I've cared for. They seemed to really single me out, and I thought, well, what is it about me that's different than the others? And I think it's that genuine love.
The heart.
Right, and understanding them and what they're going through and how they feel, and helping them enjoy their life however long it is. It's different for each of us. Our circumstances and our health is different with each of us. But helping them to become grateful for what they've got.
Right.
And then when it comes time to let go, to be able to do that, to say, like Jesus said on the cross, "It is finished," they can say, "It is finished, Lord, here I am." And my last client who passed away was a little concerned at the end. She was very strong in her faith. And she says, "I'm scared." And I said, "Well, what are you scared of?" And she said, "Well, it's not the dying. I know where I'm going, but getting there." I said, "Don't you worry about a thing. You're going to be fine. And I'm here, and I promised you I would be here. And you've got hospice health with help is just the biggest help you can have at the end of life." And I said, "You're just going to go to sleep, and then God is going to surround you with His love and carry you home." She just looked up and smiled. And that was probably about the last word she spoke. And then she passed away, the most gentle I've ever seen anyone. She wasn't breathing hard like my dad. It just got more and more shallow. She was so peaceful.
She was relaxed and at peace because you helped her.
I did.
To relax.
And we'd been working on it for over a year. She would ask me questions. We'd go for walks. We'd go around the pool. And she just loved her house. And she says, "I know where I'm going, and I'm looking forward to that, but yet I'm still not ready to just let go of this beautiful home. And the next people may not appreciate it like I have." And I said, "Well, just enjoy your home now. When the time comes, God will help you let go." And she did. She just let go.
And that is so cool, because that leads into what I want to ask you, that is the question I'm going to be taking around the world, is that what does healthy aging mean to you, and how did you prepare for your own old age as a caregiver, because you've experienced so much?
Well, I experienced what others were going through, and those who fought their illness or fought dying were the ones that were suffering.
So how do you define the healthy aging first?
Well, it's healthy living, doing the best that you can do, not just for your body, whether that's nutrition, eating right, following your doctor's advice, but following your heart will tell you, and your mind will tell you. But finding the lifestyle that you enjoy. If you enjoy fishing, one of my clients before they died, we went out and he showed me how to fly fish.
Cool.
Which I never knew how to fly fish.
Cool.
And he enjoyed it. So he had healthy aging. Even with dementia. Dementia, in his case, caused him to be angry quite often. But boy, we get off into the fishing or something he enjoyed, all of a sudden he wasn't angry anymore. He was living life up to the end to time to go on.
Exactly. And that's what I want to really get into with regard to you, that I know as you're going forward in your own older age, getting past 55 now,
Yes.
that you want to specialize in hospice care. What is it about that really is attractive to you that you think people are missing? Why is that important?
Because it's so important. I think it's more important the end of life than it is the beginning of life.
Okay, you got my attention. Why?
Well, because they are preparing themselves for the next journey, for the next stage of existence. I believe personally we are eternal beings. We're giving these very short life. I don't care if you live to be 125. That is very short if we are an eternal being. And so to help them to prepare, to not suffer, and you can do that without infringing anyone's religious beliefs. Go to where their belief is and what comforts them, and help them to come to grips and honesty with themselves of where they're at, where they're going, and what they would need to finish up before then, and enjoy that moment. My last person who passed away, she was doing some funny things because she had dementia. And she would tell me about it first thing in the morning, and her words to me was, "Now we're going to laugh about this."
Laugh about this.
And we did. It was something really stupid, but it was funny. She realized, hey, this is just the brain. It's not me. I'm just as young as I've ever been. It doesn't matter what this body's doing. So we had a good time with it. She just laughed.
You have such good relationships with your clients. What advice would you have for family that would be interviewing someone as a caregiver? What should they look for?
They need to know someone who understands, who has the knowledge, the skills, and the love and compassion, to the degree that they could go on a trip, they can relieve the stress from themselves, knowing we've got the best caregiver here that's going to look out for the best of my loved one. I don't have to worry about anything. And that's what happened with the last one. I've gotten cards from them, and they've told me and showed me in so many ways that they just can't explain how much gratitude they had to know, and the peace of mind to know that I had taken charge. While they were out of town, I went and got what she needed, and I did this and made the calls, and I was there for her. I was doing things for her that she couldn't do for herself. And that gave them that understanding. Now, when they came back and saw her dying and there was things they did not understand, I thought, oh boy, I got to educate real quick here. So I educated the family on things to be aware of, to look out for. Plus, I call the hospice nurse, and they're able to explain a lot of things too. Because a lot of times people are busy living their life, which we should be. We're not focused on end of life. So when end of life to your loved one comes, they're thinking, oh, we need to do this, we need to do that. And really, a lot of times you don't need to do that. You might be doing the opposite of what that person truly needs. Toward the very end, when the atrophy sets in and they get to where they can't swallow, the worst thing you can do is keep trying to get them to drink water. They're not able to swallow it. It's going to go down their lungs. It's going to cause infections. It's going to cause pneumonia. It's going to cause suffering. If you can just go along, get a good hospice team going so that everyone's on the same page, the persons, they don't have to suffer when they pass. Mm-hmm. We can create suffering from ignorance,
What is the biggest problem that you see in dealing with families with the end-of-life issues? Is it just the ignorance? Are they just so unaware of what mom or dad needs, or the whole process, or what's difficult about that for families?
There's different parts of it that come into play. Part of it, a big part for some families, is they are so close. They don't want to let that person go. They need that person for them. They need to be reminded, hey, love this person enough to let them go. And tell them, even if they're in a coma, because they most likely will go into a coma, that doesn't mean they can't hear you.
Right.
Their soul is there, whether they're in the body or they're kind of out of the body watching everything or what. I don't know for sure, but I do know too many case studies have shown people come out of hypnosis, out of a coma, will tell you exactly what you said. So tell them, I love you, you've lived a wonderful life, and it's okay to go on. So go on, and I will be there with you too one day. Because we're never truly lost.
I like that attitude.
So that pain, it can be the biggest obstacle for a lot of families. The emotional pain of letting go. It's hard for the patient a lot of times to let go.
What extra challenges does dementia add to the mix here?
Well, because mostly the frontal lobe, where reasoning is, they just cannot comprehend. They don't understand. Why are you putting this gait belt on me? I can do just fine. Well, they can't. And my one patient, she decided she was fine. She wouldn't know what we were talking about in the other room, and she just stood right up. And the brain was affecting her balance. And so she went back and got her head hurt, and we took her to ER and all these tests and got staples put in her hair. You would think that she would remember and know and learn from that, but you can't sometimes with dementia. The very next day, she's wanting to do the same thing. So we had put a seat belt, well, we put 2 gait belts together and made a little safety belt for her. And I told her, now, this is just to remind you that you need to call for some help before getting up. Don't do it on your own, it's too dangerous. And then one day she got angry and said, don't ever put this on me again. So a friend that was working with me came up with the best answer. He says, no, it's just not negotiable. And so she went with that. She couldn't negotiate it, so that's that.
What do you think is the biggest myth with regards to someone dying with dementia? What is it that people need to be aware of about this to help themselves as family members to help the person have an easier passing?
They're afraid that they're going to suffer, and they don't have to. They can. My advice is get them on board with your doctor who can approve hospice care. You don't have to wait to the last minute. You can have a good quality life for 2-3 years on hospice. And
2-3 years?
Oh yeah, my mom was on it for, well, she went a year, then she came off for a while. She had gotten a little better, and then she was back on it for 6 months before she died. People in the nursing home, the nurses were clueless that my mom was dying when I walked in and saw her. Not everybody, even though they're very intelligent, maybe good at their jobs, when it comes to hospice care, sometimes they miss the mark. They're just not in tune to what's really going on with this individual. And so that is the key thing in caregiving with a heart. In order to be in tune with someone, you have to have that heart for that person. Your focus should be just on them.
Well, which leads into the next question, that what I found in dementia coaching and working with folks that are dying is that it brings out the fear of death in some family members, mm-hmm. that they see themselves in that situation. So how do you deal with that?
Well, you know, people can learn together as a family. That's another thing about hospice care. It's not just caring for the person there. It's for the whole family. They have counselors. They have ministers, whatever your faith may be. They're non-denominational. Especially counselors can come in and work individually away from other family members, because each person's journey in life is uniquely their own.
Right.
They're each going to learn those lessons in their own way, in their own direction. Ultimately, we all get to the same place. So that would be my answer.
Absolutely. And so what I'm curious about, since you've had, more years being paid as a professional than I have doing this kind of work, how has your own vision and understanding of death and dying changed? So from like when you're working with your dad to today, how has it changed?
Well, it's just created a more belief in myself that I'm eternal, that God is with me. This is my own beliefs. I was blessed to come into this life, which is a miracle in itself, to see how a baby is formed and made. And I'm very grateful for all these hardships that I went through in life that we haven't talked about and may not, but I went through a lot of hardships in my own life. But I have learned that I am so grateful for that because it's made me who I am today. So when I leave this world and go home, I'll be a better soul than I was when I came in. Because I will take my treasures of experiences with me. That's the only thing I'm taking with me. My house, my car, money, whatever, it's for the living. I won't need it anymore. But I need me, and I need my experiences, and I will have that. And so that has made it easier for me to understand watching other people's lives and dynamics. And I'm talking poor people, rich people. We're all the same, and we all have the same needs. And I think that we all come here for one thing, to learn to love. We all love to some degree, but boy, there's levels of it. And I learned about the word unconditional, and what is that? And I realized some people can really love this person, but not that one. And so we're all learning that one thing, love. I think that's what life's all about, and that's what we take with us, is however much we've learned. When we go from 3rd grade to 4th grade, we're going to take whatever we've learned, and what we didn't learn, it's still there to be learned.
That's a good point. Well, you know, when you stop and think about this from, again, the family standpoint, what is it that you feel like is the most important thing for the family to help them be detached from mom and dad? What is it that they can do for themselves to help themselves? It's kind of a closing question. What do you see as the most important thing?
It's just different with each one.
Right.
I think if they don't know what to do, then they need to seek help. They need to ask a counselor. They need to ask their minister if that's where they think they could get. They need to research their own heart. They need to meditate and be real with themselves and face whatever fears are there. Why are you afraid of that? And begin their own self-healing. But I haven't run into too much problem with that with families. They're just looking for answers, and once you give them the answers that they need, whatever specific answers that is, they're able to accept and move on, and they're happy. And then when we have a funeral service, they're not suffering. Instead, they're celebrating the life of the person they just lost to the spiritual realm.
I love that. By way of closing, that what you're saying is by way of recapping this for me, is an old phrase that says that a single rose to the living means more than a sumptuous wreath to the dead.
Mm-hmm.
Celebrate your life while we're still alive. And as we come to the close here, I want you all to think about that. And the point for today's episode is, let's live our dreams today. And remember that we deserve to be treated with dignity and respect as human beings.
Yes.
And as individuals, we're all worthy of love and forgiveness. So give that love and forgiveness to yourself. And we'll look forward to seeing you in the next episode. And thank you again today for Alan.
Thank you.